Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest review of the latest episode of Marvel's What If. And I'm your host, a guy who watches What If. Hope you're all doing well today on this Wednesday. That's what it is, Wednesday. I have to remind myself, days start to blend together. I blame the current global crisis. Let's see who's joining me this morning. Pi Guy 07, hi Scribe, listening to you on my morning jog. Well, hopefully I can keep up with you. Mike Savage, John Miller, Pinkalo, the driving ape man. Hope you're all doing well. All right, well, let's jump right into it because who needs preamble when it comes to What If? Truth be told, this was probably the most straightforward and what if-like episode of the series so far, in plain language, in that the title is What If Ultron Had Won? And it goes off of a simple premise. What if Ultron had actually ended up downloading himself or uploading himself into the body of the Vision before the Avengers could stop him? That's it. That's the one divergence from the movie events. And that's fine. That's perfect. That's exactly what ifs are supposed to do most of the time. It's like something happened in the regular continuity. What if it went the other direction? That's it. And what goes off from that? And so in that sense, this was probably the best episode so far because it didn't mess with any of the, the logic of the events in previous films. It just made one choice away from the events of the previous films that was completely possible, because that was the whole, ticking clock part of Age of Ultron at that one point where, Ultron's trying to upload himself into the body and he keeps getting interrupted. Well, what if he hadn't been? What if the Avengers hadn't gotten there in time or he had enough time to do it? And these are the events. So here, I'll get into it. So first we start off with the Watcher. Now remember at the end of the last episode, we had the Super Ultron with all the Infinity Stones walking into the Looney Tunes Thor world, and the Watcher going, "Oh no, what's this?" Well, the Watcher's looking over this new reality where Ultron had won, and we have a post-apocalyptic wasteland, very Mad Max, with Black Widow on her motorcycle being chased down by a swarm of Ultrabots. And they're all coming for her, and they're coming for her. Boom, explosions. Hawkeye's up on her roof using his super arrows to kill all the Superbots, and she's running away in this nuclear apocalypse wasteland, and they're leading the robots to places. And Hawkeye at some point lost his arm, and so now he has a cyborg arm, and the robots blow off his arm. And so he's armless. He gets knocked off a building. Big action scene. What's going on? A little humor here. She's like, "Can I give you a hand?" And so sort of like Bucky, he just kind of snaps his arm back into place because that's how, delicate cybernetics work. But anyway, so they're in Russia because the Black Widow has reason to believe there's information in Russia that could help them defeat Ultron once and for all. What is that information? We're not sure yet. But we do a little bit of flashback explaining who is Ultron, where does he come from, and the events thereof. And then, of course, Ultron won. He was able to upload himself into the body of the Vision. And then suddenly you have Ultron with the power of an Infinity Gem. And for whatever reason, Ultron, unlike Vision, has an understanding of what the Infinity Gem is and what it can do beforehand, I guess. Even though the Vision spent, the better part of the next couple of films not knowing exactly what it was he had in his head and actually said so. But whatever. Anyway, so Ultron has an understanding of what it is. And as a consequence of this, he uses the power of the Infinity Stone to kill all the Avengers and then launch all the nuclear missiles on the planet at one another, and thus blowing up the whole planet. And they even there's even a joke in here about Skynet. So he's kind of the Terminator, Skynet kind of thing. So he blows up all the planet. Everybody's dead. Everybody's dead, Dave. Everybody's dead. So then he's looking over all of his great works, and he's kind of like, I've brought peace to the world and everything else. And then Thanos shows up at the appropriate time, because that's, of course, what Thanos does. And Ultravision takes one look at the Infinity Gauntlet, and he's like, oh, and he uses his powers to just split Thanos into two and kills him. Very anticlimactic. I was like, oh, so the Vision had this power the whole time? I mean, I guess the Vision isn't quite one to kill people or things, but he had this power the whole time? Okay. So anyway, he splits Thanos in half and steals all of the other collected Infinity Stones, which doesn't make much sense since he couldn't have the Time Stone yet, since he hadn't gotten to the Sanctum Sanctorum where Doctor Strange and or the Ancient One, depending on the circumstances, had the Time Stone, but somehow Vision gets all the stones. Because I guess that's just how it works. Because Thanos didn't have all those stones when he first showed. Anyway, so yeah. There you go. Suddenly, Ultravision has, or I'm going to say Ultravision, has all the Infinity Gems. And suddenly, with the Infinity Gems, Ultravision becomes aware, hey, there are other planets in this galaxy that I need to save from themselves, because that's my main programming. So then we go on a romp through the universe as Ultravision basically annihilates civilization after civilization. Asgard is gone. Xandar is gone. The Sovereigns are gone. Sakaar is gone. He blows up Ego. And then Captain Marvel appears on Xandar. I guess Xandar wasn't quite blown up yet, but it's getting there. So Captain Marvel shows up on Xandar. She makes the Skynet comment, and then she fights him, and she blasts him all the way through the planet's core, all the way down to the center of the planet. And she's trying to kill him, and he's like, no, I'm like a god, so no. And he blows up Xandar and conceivably Captain Marvel as well, and like 12 other planets in the system. And he's like, aha, now everybody's dead. All the civilizations are gone. There's finally peace. Everything's settled. There's nothing else. And now I can rest. And then the Watcher starts narrating, and he's like, now that he has achieved his ultimate victory, he is alone in the universe. But am I alone in the universe? Not exactly, because Robert Pincus is here, and Red Fawn. And also, John Miller, thank you so much. So what if Ultron took Thanos' homework and slightly changed it? Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things in this episode that I was kind of like, huh? And the Time Stone already being in Thanos' possession was one of them. That seemed like a little bit of hand wavy away, and never mind about what happened to the Sorcerer Supreme or the Ancient One, or yeah, we're just gonna ignore that bit, I guess. I mean, maybe in this universe where the Time Stone was already in Thanos' possession somehow. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, and also someone in possession of the Power Gem and the Reality Gem and the Time Gem is just vulnerable to a super android's attack. Anyway, okay, I'm gonna stop now. Anyway, so Supervision, Ultravision is sitting here in the middle of the universe all by himself, and the Watcher starts telling us like, oh, now he's all alone in his conquest, and Ultravision's like, who said that? And the Watcher's like, WTF? And he's like, what? And then we get to see for the first time the perspective of what the Watcher's looking at. So he's living in this realm of multifaceted crystals, elements, versions of reality, which isn't exactly what the Watcher does. Or he lives on the moon. He lives on the blue side of the moon, and he watches over Earth in this reality. He can look from our reality at other realities, but he's not simultaneously in those other realities. I don't know. I guess it depends on who's writing the story. Anyway, so this is the first instance where something that bugged me throughout the episode began, and that was uh, attributing to the watcher a series of phrases and sensibilities that are not very watcher-like. One of the things that I recall, and people can correct me if I'm mistaken, that Stan Lee, who wrote a lot of the early stories, or at least influenced these things, um, he gave certain characters and certain beings a very dramatic, a very sort of epic way of speaking to sort of differentiate them from normal people. So, Thor would be talking like some sort of Shakespearean uh, sort of epic actor or something, and the celestial beings, such as the Watcher, would be speaking in far more high-minded terms. But the Watcher, upon realizing that Ultravision can see him or hear him, he says something to the effect of, "What the hell was that?" Like, no, no. And then later on, near the end of the episode, we'll get there, but I'll say it now. He's having to uh, seek help from someone, and he looks down, and his eyes, he says, "I can't even believe I'm saying this." Like, that's not how the Watcher talks. That's not how celestial beings in the MCU talk. I mean, short of maybe Mephisto. I could see Mephisto doing something like that, but the Watcher, in various points in this episode, starts talking like a normal person, which, again, just felt out of sorts. Anyway, so the Watcher is suddenly aware that Ultravision is aware of him, and Ultravision's like, "Wait a second, there are other dimensions than my own?" Yeah, because, a being that is based on Jarvis and influenced by Tony Stark would not have or could not have imagined the possibility of a multiverse, even though we mere humans have been speculating about the possibility of a multiverse since science fiction began. But all of a sudden now, with all the Infinity Gems, Ultravision realizes that there's a multiverse. Okay. So anyway, the Watcher's like, "Oh my God, I'm in trouble now. What's going to happen? Oh no, I'm in trouble. Oh, what could this mean? What could this mean?" And then we cut back to Russia, where Black Widow and Hawkeye are in a giant secret Kremlin archive warehouse. And I was waiting for it. Okay, who's going to reference Raiders of the Lost Ark? And Clint does, of course, which I think they can safely do now, because even though the Indiana Jones movies were distributed by Paramount, they were Lucasfilm Pictures, so I think they're safe in making reference to things. But I don't know if that's even a problem. Anyway, yeah, we've had a Skynet reference, and we've had now a Raiders of the Lost Ark reference. And if I'm not mistaken, isn't the Terminator franchise under the 20th Century Fox label? So yeah, just little hints of things that I believe now Disney owns, scattered across this episode. There's also a visual Star Wars reference later, but we'll get there. Anyway, so they're going through the warehouse. They're looking for the answer that Natasha thinks is in here to try to fight Ultron. And so they have to go through all these boxes because the Russians only dealt in printed out copies, and they didn't deal with electronic files because they're safer and easier to destroy, and so on. And so, and by the way, a nuclear bomb hitting the Kremlin or near to Moscow leaves this library warehouse completely untouched. And never mind radioactive fallout from every nuclear bomb on the planet hitting every major site on the planet within a year or two, I guess. I know. I'm being a nitpicker, but pardon me. Anyway, so they're going through the warehouse and they're discussing things. And Clint's lost his family, right? I mean, Clint's the one character who had actually a family. His whole family's dead. He's battle weary and he's tired and he's complained about this stuff. So also, Scarlett Johansson did not come back to play Black Widow in this, but Jeremy Renner is playing Hawkeye, which is nice. There's the actual actor to character ratio in this episode it's okay, and I understand, you can't get everybody back all the time, but anyway, some voices were more noticeable than others. Specifically, Ultron. Whoever was doing Ultron's voice really did try to do their best sort of James Spader-ish interpretation or imitation. It was all right. It was okay. I mean, what more could you ask for? Anyways, they're pulling out boxes and they're looking for whatever this answer is that Natasha knows is there but won't tell us for some reason. She finds the Red Guardian shield by chance in one of the boxes because that's where that would be at this point in time. But anyway, so they discuss more about how depressed Hawkeye is, and he's just like, I'm tired. And now the Watcher's like hovering there, and he's like, you're so close to the answer. Because the Watcher knows the answer's in this box, but Hawkeye's looking in this box. Oh, you need to look in this box. And so he keeps saying, look in that box, look in that box. And there's a file there with the name Arnim Zola on it. Like, uh-oh. And so he keeps like, uh-oh, what should I do? What should I do? You're so close. So the Watcher knows what the answer to solving the problem of this reality is. And so you're thinking, okay, is the Watcher going to levitate the box off of the shelf? Is he going to suddenly manifest himself and tell them to look there? Because he's not allowed to intervene, remember? So anyway, gets really close, and then Barton just gives up, and he's like, I'm tired. I don't want to fight anymore. And Natasha's like, no, we have to keep going. And he's like, oh, I don't know what to do. And she pulls out the box, and she finds the reference to Arnim Zola. She's like, aha, I found it. And the Watcher's like, yay, you found the thing and the stuff. False tension and drama, I guess, because the Watcher already knows the answer. Of course, if he already knows the answer, if he already knows the solution, then why is he scared? Right? That's another one of the sort of the conflicts of this thing. It's like, well, if the Watcher knows what's going to happen or the events necessary to make certain things happen, why was he scared that they weren't going to find the answer? Anyway, so she finds out that well, we'll get there in a moment. Anyway, so back to multiverse reality, because somehow the Watcher was able to keep his attention on one event while also fighting Ultravision in here. So Ultravision's like, I'm more powerful than you are, and I'm going to kill you stuff. Anyway, so basically what happened is that Natasha in that file found out that Arnim Zola had a version of himself, his AI, his analog AI, as we saw in Winter Soldier. There was one saved copy of himself in the basement of the Kremlin or in some bunker in Stalingrad or something, or Siberia. So they get from Moscow to Siberia, I guess, in no time at all, to go find this old copy of Arnim Zola in a secret lab. And there is the totality of Arnim Zola, apparently. So anyway, they activate Arnim Zola, and they're like, hey, you need to help us because the world's been taken over and you're an analog program and you're an AI that could possibly fight this other AI. How could a Earth-based, even super genius artificial intelligence defeat a multi-infinity gemmed, empowered, super vibranium synthezoid construct? I don't know. And I have no idea why Black Widow would think that this would work. But anyway, that's her theory. So they give Arnim Zola a quick update on what's happened in the world since the 1990s or whatever, whenever the last time he was turned on. And they threaten to basically dump water on his CPU if he doesn't do what they say, because they tell him, you're the last copy of yourself on the planet because of the nuclear bombs and everything. So if you want to still survive, you're going to do what we say. And he's like, okay. So they don't drop that on Zola. And Black Widow calls Stark Tower, because Stark Tower is apparently where Ultron has his headquarters. Because, global spanning, interdimensional spanning artificial intelligences need to have a headquarters. So anyway, she calls the headquarters and jokes a pizza delivery call to lure them to Siberia. And the theory is this. Clint is going to download all of Arnim Zola into this USB arrow. right? And then he's going to fire this USB arrow into one of the Ultron drones. And from this action, Arnim Zola will infect the entire network somehow, and then render the entire network useless and defeat Ultron. Uh, Now, it is unknown to me, and I'm assuming at this point that our heroes here have absolutely no idea that Ultron has all of the Infinity Stones, knows what the Infinity Stones are and or what they can do exactly, because they have no idea that he's not actually on Earth anymore. So this is all for naught, but they don't know that, which is, the kind of tragic sort of situation you'd hope to find in a what if comic. Anyway, so they go through this plan. They download Arnim Zola into a Arrow. They then burn the computer that last held Arnim Zola, and then the drones show up and they start fighting the drones. And Clint shoots the upload arrow into one of the drones, and the drone gets taken over by Arnim Zola. And he's like, "Aha! I'm downloading myself into the network, or trying to." And they're stuck in this silo safe room thing, and the robots outside are banging on the door trying to get in. And but Zola's having trouble connecting to the network, and he can't quite figure out why. And he's kind of like, it doesn't seem like the network hub is within the observable universe, right? Because he can't reach Ultravision, because Ultravision isn't in this reality effectively right now. Okay, so anyway, the robots break through, and then we have a big escape scene where they're trying to climb up out of the silo, and Clint is, fighting them off with his arrows and everything, and he puts a force field arrow down there, which is kind of interesting. And so, it's getting to the point where, somebody's going to have to give themselves up. And we have this moment where, like, Clint is being held onto by Natasha, and we get the whole scene out of Endgame, except it's reversed, where Clint lets go and falls to his death in a big sacrifice play. And then Natasha is, this is the Star Wars reference, if I can find a frame for it, is that, so Natasha's carrying the Zolabot on her back up and out of the silo. And of course, I thought of Chewbacca carrying C-3PO on his back around Cloud City, that kind of deal. I don't know if that was a direct reference. That's what I thought of because I'm a nerd like that. Anyway, so Clint sacrifices himself by shooting, I don't know, mini nuclear arrow into the group of robots down there in the silo, and blows them all up and blows himself up. And there's our hero landing by Black Widow with her not Captain America shield. So, so Zola's like, I can't reach the rest of the network. It's all outside of this universe or something, and I can't find it. And I don't know what's going on. And Natasha's like, I don't know what's going on. And so then we get big super galactic battle between Ultravision and the Watcher. Watcher's got to fight for himself and for his safety. And the Ultravision's like, you can't stop me. And Watcher's like, I can try. And so they bust through 17,000 different multiple universes in this fight where they keep crashing through the, I don't know, multiversal barrier or something. And so it's just a lot of like monologuing by Ultravision about what he's going to do, and Watcher going like, you can't do this, and watch me, There's some jokes in there, very sort of James Spader / Ultron jokes, commenting on the Watcher being kind of creepy, just being a Watcher. It was some nice levity, and it was probably the only part in this thing where actually felt like the character of Ultron mildly resembled the character presented in Age of Ultron. Even though I wasn't that jazzed with the whole idea of a humorous Ultron in the first place, at least there was some consistency. Anyway, so they fight, and then finally the Watcher busts out in his own suit of armor. His own slightly Jack Kirby-esque suit of golden armor to fight Ultravision on, or with, I should say. And then they go crashing through more realities and fighting and fighting and fighting. They get to, a city. And then Supervision, he's like, aha, I'm going to kill you and destroy and save the universe. And there's not much here. And yeah, with each punch, the reality changes a little bit. So first you're in like a New York setting, and then suddenly you're in a Wakanda setting, and they're crashing through. And then you're in a medieval setting. Yeah, it's all very. I kept waiting to see if there's going to be some Easter eggs in the flashes of different realities they went to. I was half expecting, and maybe it's in there and I missed it. I was half expecting there to be one flash of like Coruscant from Star Wars or something like that to give a sort of heart attack. Oh, please no. Let's not merge these universes together kind of thing. But there wasn't, as far as I know. The freeze frame brigade that goes into these things more in depth on other channels may find something, but I didn't see it if there is. Anyway, so they're fighting. Ultron is just about to kill the Watcher, and the Watcher like says, hell with this, I'm out. And he sort of like disappears and crashes through reality. And Ultron figures, okay, well, I guess I won. And then we cut to the Watcher looking all sad. He's looking all sad and defeated. He doesn't know what to do. And then a voice from behind him, a voice coming from tentacle, batwing thing stuff, and it's evil Doctor Strange. Yes, the Watcher has teleported himself into the pocket guilt universe of the evil Doctor Strange from 2 or 3 episodes back. And evil Doctor Strange is like, well, look who's here. And the Watcher's like, I can't believe I'm saying this. I need your help. And that's where we cut to the end. So a relatively straightforward bad guy won and everything becomes destructed sort of story. It is very what if in the sense that we are just taking one divergence of events, one different outcome from established canon, and then saying what would have happened next. So in that sense, this was one of, if not the most direct what if type scenarios from the comic books that this show has done so far. Fine. We got to see some Watcher action, which was interesting. Again, I wasn't jazzed with the sort of common colloquialisms and mannerisms that are not, befitting a Watcher. But other than that, and obviously this is going to lead to the Watcher collecting up all of the different main characters we've seen in the other episodes and bring them together to fight Ultravision to save the multiverse. So we're going to have Captain Carter working alongside mass murderer Killmonger, working alongside insane mass murderer evil Doctor Strange, working alongside cartoonish Thor, working alongside pure of heart Star Panther. It's going to be a motley crew, I'll tell you that, by the time we get there. So yes, I suppose the next episode will be trying to get the band together, presumably. Yeah, like I say, very straightforward episode. Bad guy wins, bad guy conquers. It's kind of an Empire Strikes Back episode in that sense. The bad guy wins. In the sense that it diverged from established canon and sort of set up a I don't know what's going to happen next kind of thing. It was the more interesting of the episodes where you take established characters and you put them into different situations where they have to compromise. So like Arnim Zola Bot and Black Widow now being allies against Supervision with Hawkeye dead. I mean, there are some things you could see a mile away just because they have to keep mirroring events in the movies. So Hawkeye dying, I saw, that was early on. Yeah, Hawkeye's going to die. It's probably going to be some kind of endgame thing. And it was. Yeah. I mean, like I say, I have to take each of these episodes as their own deal and try not to let the decisions of writers from other episodes bleed into my opinions on uninvolved episodes in that sense. And so in that case, this one was all right. As a what if standalone, what if Ultron had won? This was all right. Some things didn't make any sense. Where'd the time stone come from? If Thanos could just be sliced in half like that with one thought, why didn't the Vision do that in Infinity War, and so on? So, yeah, I don't know that I have much else to say about it. We can see where this is going. We're going to have our interdimensional Avengers coming up in the next couple episodes to finish up everything. But yeah, not much else to say, I guess. If you guys have any comments or questions or anything you'd like to say, I'll entertain those now. And then after that, I'll wrap things up and get back to stuff. Stephen Torres, What If is the only series I said, yeah, I really don't need to watch this. You really don't. I mean, I'm watching it because, well, I plunked down for a Disney Plus account and might as well. If I'm saving you guys the trouble, then so be it. It's fluff. You know, my only sort of long-term curiosity is whether or not there's anything from this series that's going to carry over into the ongoing movies and other plot lines and things. Because I kept wondering especially as I'm watching a couple episodes back, is the Doctor Strange we see in the upcoming Spider-Man movie this Doctor Strange, the bad Doctor Strange? Does that explain why he decides to do something so stupid as to mess around with time and reality the way that he looks like he's doing in the new Spider-Man movie? Because either Doctor Strange doesn't give a rip, to keep this a family show, or he's Mephisto, or he's evil Doctor Strange. And I'm just wondering, is he evil Doctor Strange? That honestly, that's really the only hook keeping me on watching these things, on the off chance it actually has anything to do with the other movies. J. Jonah Joestar, his armor looks like that one tubby Dark Souls boss. See, I don't. I've never played Dark Souls, and I don't know all the bosses in Dark Souls. So I'll take your word for it. Let's see. And it also says watchers aren't supposed to fight; they just watch. I don't understand. Well, this is sort of the constant, prime directive kind of thing that has always been part of the Watcher and his character. The most, dramatic example, I think one of the most first examples, was when Galactus attacked Earth in the old Fantastic Four series, comic book series. And the Watcher is watching this because that's what the Watcher does. And the Watcher, just for those of you that don't know, okay, in the comic books, the Watchers are a race of beings, and they are implanted throughout the galaxy, or the universe at large, situated to watch over and chronicle different civilizations. All right. So conceivably, there's a Watcher for Earth, and then there's a Watcher for Xandar, and so on and so on and so on. And they are chroniclers, they are observers, they are scientists of a kind, but they're not supposed to interfere. It's sort of like Jane Goodall or whatever, watching the gorillas from a distance, but not getting involved. It's Star Trek and the Prime Directive preventing the Federation from interfering in still developing civilizations, that kind of thing. But then, of course, comes the inevitable, moral dilemma. If I observe something terrible about to happen that could decimate or severely hurt all these, living things that I'm watching over, am I not ethically bound to intervene to try to save lives, or am I just supposed to sit here and watch the train wreck happen? That's the ethical dilemma that the Watcher constantly falls into. It's kind of a cliche at this point. The Watcher has intervened in events so many times by now in the comic books. Is it really ever a question? But at least for the sake of this series so far, the Watcher has not directly intervened in events. But now that the entire multiverse is conceivably threatened by this one being that could go over and destroy and take over everything, now the Watcher's like, uh-oh, what should I do? But I don't know how the Watchers work in this universe, because it looks like they've given the whole job to one guy, rather than him being a race of people that watch over all types of stuff. Because conceivably then, if the Watcher's like, hey guys, this one creature is going to destroy everything, all him and all his people could take on Super Ultron by themselves. So I don't know how the Watcher works. The only other time we've seen the Watcher in the Marvel Universe was one scene in, I think, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, 1 or 2 or something. Either way, Stan Lee is sitting there on some moon-like planet with like 2 or 3 other Watchers talking to them, telling them stories and things. So anyway, I could go on, but there you go. Yeah, he's not supposed to intervene, but we get the whole deal. Let's see. Nobody, not me. Greetings, everyone. Am I just in time to leave? Well, yes. Yes, just about. Kelsey Vasquez. So is Wakanda still there and just ignoring everything as before? I am guessing the dome would survive the blast. I don't know. That's a good question. The vibranium technology and everything else you would think would protect them from a nuclear bomb. But they kind of hand waved that away. So I guess whatever. Maybe Ultron found his way in or infected their technology. Who knows? Like the Time Stone being in Thanos's possession before he gets to Earth. Yeah, I guess. I'm just assuming so. I don't know. Anything else? John Miller. So a Q with bureaucracy. No, the Watchers aren't tricksters. This is like the reverse Q. Sees everything, knows everything, also isn't completely aware of how things are going to go. It's very vague how the Watchers work. And especially in this episode, as described, does the Watcher know what the outcome is going to be? If he does, why doesn't he already see the threat, and on and on and on, etc. And that's always the problem you get with beings who are supposed to be, or understandably, omniscient in some way. If they know everything, how can they be surprised? Right? If the Watcher is aware of the comings and goings of universes and realities one to the other, why would supervision becoming aware of him and attacking him have shocked him? In all of the realities and eventualities he has access to, he's surprised? Is there only one Watcher? That was the other question I was wondering throughout this entire thing. Is there a different Watcher for every reality? Think about that for a second, because what they're presenting here is you had one Watcher in front of a multi-dimensional faceted window looking over everything. Whereas in the comic books, the Watcher watches over the moon, right? He watches from the moon over Earth. He has access to see other realities, but he's not existing sort of independent of those realities. He's still stuck here in our reality, but he can, open a window to other possibilities, more or less. So I'm not quite sure how the Watcher works here, as I've said several times now. That's the one thing that still confounds me amongst everything else. Like, what are the mechanisms here? What are the rules? So this Watcher is going to go to these other realities and pluck these different heroes out of those separate realities and form a super band to take on Ultravision, especially when he has access to every reality that has ever existed or will exist. He's just going to pick these guys? Really? He doesn't go to an alternate Thanos or go to a universe where the Ultron was good, or I know. I'm thinking outside the box. Terrible, terrible thing. John Miller, they are omnipotent. Nope. Okay, this is something that always gets me, and just because I'm a nitpicker. There's a difference between omnipotence and omniscience. Being all powerful does not necessarily lead to being all knowing. Those are distinctions that need to be made. So, for example, I can have all the power in the world. I can hold the Infinity Gauntlet, but not necessarily know everything. There's no infinity gem of knowledge, which is the interesting part. I always thought that was like time, space, power, reality, but not knowledge. So you can be all powerful and still be kind of ignorant. Being omniscient, however, knowing everything, that's a separate category. So the Watchers are they omniscient or partially omniscient, which doesn't make any sense? I don't know. It's comic book science. So, but anyway, everyone, that's all I've got to say. I guess we'll find out what happens next time, even though we kind of already know what's going to happen. We're going to have the Guardians of the Multiverse versus Ultravision. So, looking forward to that, I suppose. If you'd like to hear more from me, you can find me tomorrow night, Thursday night, on this channel at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, for another episode of TED Excellence, where this week I'll be taking a look at restorative justice from a native expert. Many times in past restorative justice videos, the speakers have referenced Native American peacemaking practices as the basis for their belief that there's a better way to institute justice in the world. Well, this time, the speaker will actually be one of those practicing peacemakers or peacekeepers, whatever you want to call them. And so, right from the source, I'll be taking a look at that tomorrow, Thursday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here for TED Excellence. Until then, everyone, I hope you are all having a good rest of your Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though I don't see... Oh, Pincalo was here, at least visibly. Thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well-behaved. You have very little to do. Everyone who donated, thank you so much for your generosity. I really do appreciate it. I hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon. And I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.